Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2018 Chevy Cruze hatchback diesel. Up front is a 1.6 liter turbocharged diesel inline 4, and down below is a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this here Cruze diesel for a couple of reasons. First of all, it is a diesel. I didn't know that these even came with a diesel option, so that is super exciting. But the second reason is that I've actually never filmed a Cruze of this generation. This body style started in 2016 and ran up until the Cruze's discontinuation in America in 2019. So I'm excited to share that with you today. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpraedel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you'd get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind-the-scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that almighty 1.6 liter turbocharged diesel under the hood. Well, it makes about 137 horsepower. Now, this is known as the MDE, which stands for medium diesel engine. It was actually developed by GM's sub-brand Opel overseas in Europe. Now, Europe has been a bigger fan of diesels than us since the day they came out, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the video, but this is an Opel designed engine. They used it in all of their vehicles. The Astra diesel used this engine. And so it's really, really cool because I personally, being an American, have never driven an Opel. However, today I kind of get to say I sort of have-ish. A similar vehicle is the Buick Regal GS. That was basically an Opel Insignia. So, kind of cool that we did get some Opels here, just rebadged with our American names. However, the biggest talking point with the diesel engine is the fuel economy. It was originally rated at 36 miles to the gallon in the city, 52 miles to the gallon on the highway, making it the most fuel-efficient vehicle the EPA has ever tested that isn't a hybrid. So that is really, really awesome. And the owner himself, Tim, actually averages 46 miles to the gallon average, and his best is 58.3 miles to the gallon, almost 60 miles to the gallon. According to the vehicle computer, he's told me that on a couple of occasions he's hit 70 miles to the gallon if he sits at 60 miles an hour. That to me is just amazing and a selling point all in its own. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 9-speed automatic transmission. You could also opt for the 6-speed manual. However, the automatic with 9 speeds actually gets better fuel economy. So if you are buying one of these for fuel economy purposes, the 9-speed auto is the way to go. Last but not least, the Cruze diesel is front-wheel drive. But how does this thing drive? How does it perform? What's it like to drive a diesel Chevy Cruze? Well, the power band is super, super low, as it is with most diesel products. But you get this awesome amount of torque. Let's just pass someone here. I'll put my foot down, and it just goes. It's a brute. I really like that. It's a totally different driving experience because driving these cars normally, they came with 1.4 liter turbo gasoline engines. You really gotta punch them and squeeze them and pinch them just to get to do anything. The turbos spool really high up on those for better fuel economy down low, but the power doesn't come until the third act. This, the power is immediate. And honestly, I think this is the best driving Cruze I've ever driven. Just right into the power, and you feel all of that torque right at your fingertips. I absolutely love that. All right, diesel, let's see what you can do. Ooh, wow, right into it. Not fast, but you go. You just go. I like that a lot. It almost feels like an old, okay, don't take this out of proportion. It almost feels like an old V8 Cadillac in the way it just sort of whoosh goes. There's no fanfare, there's no downshifting, it just kind of goes. Now, it's not as smooth as a V8 Cadillac, it's not as proper as a V8 Cadillac, but when you take off from a stop, it just kind of, we're going. I like that a lot. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Because the diesels were always mid-range or higher, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but in front of me, I have 4 gauges and a screen. On the left, I have my tachometer only going up to 5,000 RPM. Pretty low for a vehicle like this, but pretty high for a diesel. In the center, I do have my fuel and coolant temperature, and off to the right, I have my speedometer, and then I get a little screen in the center. It's only black and white, but I can check on my diesel exhaust fluid level, my fuel economy, and some other nice things down there. I'm a fan, I'm just not in love. On the steering wheel, on the left, I do have my cruise control options, and off to the right, I have my voice command, phone options, and selector dials for that gauge cluster screen we just talked about. The steering wheel does feel a little plain. It is this sort of hard, textured, plasticky feel that I've come to know in Chevy products. However, we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent and the headlight switches, as well as gauge dimmer switches. And on the door, I have my power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. Moving into the center, I do have a rather small infotainment screen on par with what you would see in other Cruzes. However, it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are very, very nice. And I've always thought that Chevy's system is actually pretty easy to use. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to pair your phone, and that's what I like. I just got out of an Infiniti QX80 yesterday, and I needed a Harvard PhD to figure out how to unpair my Bluetooth phone. So this car, super easy, everything is very direct, and I like that a lot. Down below the touchscreen, we do have some radio controls for home, skip track, power, and phone options, as well as a hazard switch. And then we have the climate controls. So we do have fan speed off to the left, temperature off to the right, but what I really like are the knobs actually have just a single light on them telling you at what level you're setting it. I think this is a really simple and ingenious way to show you what you're selecting. I really like that, but I also do get heated seats. The reason I bring that up specifically is the fact that all diesels got heated seats. So kind of an interesting little quirk. Then we do have a cubby down below that. The left is for the USB in for the Apple CarPlay and aux, and then off to the right, you have the 12-volt outlet. Then moving on to the center console, off to the left, I have the shifter. This is a very, very basic, very traditional shifter from Chevy. They use it in pretty much all of their products, so that feels right at home. But off to the right, I do have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Chevy Cruze diesel, and unfortunately, it fails. I didn't really expect it to pass, but this fails by a wide margin. Then I do have my traction control on and off, and then I have this giant cubby. I'm not going to big friggin' bottle test this cubby because it's not supposed to be a cup holder. It's just a big space. However, it is nice. You get a little bit of interior storage. Then we do get a center console and the seats. The seats are cloth, very, very basic. However, they are heated and they are power, which is very, very nice. However, I don't really expect much more out of them. Speaking of seats, however, we do have back seats, so let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2018 Chevy Cruze hatchback diesel, and a couple of things to note. First of all, headroom, I am coming up and touching the ceiling a little bit with my head, but that's okay. I am 5'11". I'm on the taller side, I guess. So not fantastic, but I also don't hate it. Knee room is actually great. This is my seating position for driving. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me, so I can slouch down, sit a little bit more normally, and I do have a little bit more headroom, which is nice. So actually sitting back here is pretty good. I don't really have any major complaints. In terms of amenities, don't really have much here. I have door handles and power windows. I do have a USB charger down below, which is kind of nice. I do have a center console with cup holders, and unfortunately, they don't fit the big friggin' bottle either. However, Chevy and GM have always been good about liners. They have these like removable liners, and so if you do that, bottle still won't fit. Sorry to get your hopes up. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for the back of the Chevy Cruze. I like it. It's actually not bad in terms of like comparing it to a similar year Mazda 3 hatchback, of which I have a lot of experience with. This is as good, if not better. Probably, you know what, it actually is a little bit better than the Mazda 3. So very cool there. Let's go hop around the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the Chevy Cruze hatchback diesel, and just right little button down there. And the back space actually is pretty good. Now, it's not amazing. It's not the trunk of a Cadillac. However, it does have plenty of space, a lot nicer of space, a lot more usable space in my opinion than the sedans. We do get this nice Cruze floor mat down here. But besides that, I do get a little light over here, but nothing really too crazy. I do like this privacy cover. It is very nice and big and comes up when you pull the hatch up via these strings. So nothing crazy about the trunk, but definitely very, very nice space for a hatchback. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and there's nothing really special about the diesel in terms of looks besides the diesel badge out at the back. But let's do a walk around. This is my first time doing a hatch, and I really, really like the proportions of it. I really like the way that this car looks. I think it looks fresh. I think it looks modern for its era. You have to remember, this car is a couple years old, and the Cruze has since been canceled, so obviously it doesn't look brand new, but I still think it looks handsome. I love hatchbacks. I love the usability of hatchbacks, and overall, I think it's a really well done exterior. But with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a diesel Chevy Cruze? Something so interesting, so different. Well, they only made about 2,000 of them here for the US market, and they sold them from 2016 till 2019. So they didn't make a lot of them. That's an average of like 500 a model year. Why is that? This car is really, really good. I like it a lot. Why didn't they sell that much? Well, there's plenty of reasons to blame. First of all, Americans don't really like diesel passenger cars. We love our diesel trucks. Don't get me wrong, we love our diesel trucks. Oh, diesel. But passenger cars, we've never really bought into. Part of the reason for that is back in the 80s, Cadillac and Oldsmobile and other American brands tried to release diesel passenger cars. They were crudely adapted gasoline engines made to be diesel engines, and they were clangy, they were loud, and they were just straight up awful. So the public opinion swayed that diesels are terrible. The other thing is that our regular gasoline has always been cheaper than diesel. Buying diesel has always been more expensive. That's not the case overseas in Europe and Asia. Diesel flip-flops, but sometimes diesel is the cheaper option. Here, we've always had cheap gasoline, so that's not really a selling point. And so whenever we did get diesel passenger cars, they were always very, very expensive because they had to justify the price by adding all these options. Like I mentioned with the heated seats, it had keyless start from the factory. Every single diesel Cruze has keyless start. Well, that all added to the price, making this car you're seeing right now stickered at just under $28,000. With taxes, fees, and your first tank of gas, this is a $30,000 Chevy Cruze when the base price of a Chevy Cruze sedan was $16,500. You're adding over $10,000 to the regular sticker price, and you don't get that many more features. You still don't get leather seats. You still don't get a premium sound system. So when these were new, they didn't really make much financial sense. Yes, it got tons more MPGs, but the barrier to entry was still pretty steep. So this car got stuck in market limbo. New, it was a terrible deal, but used, this is one of the best cars. But because they didn't sell them new, they didn't make enough of them, so now you can't find them even though they're great. It's a tough situation for the Cruze to be in. This car didn't really get its moment in the sun. It didn't get the praise that it really well deserved. And so unlike when Oldsmobile called it quits in 2004, they did this final 500 edition and had a celebration of the Oldsmobile life. When GM ended the Chevy Cruze, they just turned off the lights and went home, and that's it. Not to mention the pressure from EVs, it's hard to tell if we'll ever get an American-made diesel passenger car ever again. Huge thank you to Tim for letting me take out his diesel Chevy Cruze. He drove all the way from Detroit, Michigan, here to Volo, Illinois, so I could just review his car. That is absolutely awesome. Going above and beyond, I can't thank Tim enough. It really means the world to me that he would drive almost 6 hours each way just for me to film this car. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.